My name is Mika Poutala, and this is Speedskating Secrets.
I feel like you're less inclined to achieve it if it's kind of vague. I think the more specific you can get and the more clear you can get on your goals, then it just ups your chances for getting that.
So enjoy and learn. Welcome. I have here with me Olympian from Sochi. She is also one of the Team Canada's captains and just overall the nicest person in the world. Welcome to the podcast, Marsha Hudey.
Oh wow, that's quite the introduction.
That's how I know you.
Yeah.
Like I still remember when I came to Training Canada like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I spoke with different people and you were the one that everybody said that like she's just the nicest. She never speaks about bad things about anyone, and so that's I think that's something that I really admire about you.
Oh wow, well, good to know. Good to know.
Okay, let's jump to the questions right away. So tell me a little bit about your family and your upbringing.
Oh, okay, yes. So I grew up in Saskatchewan. I have 3 other siblings. So I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother. So there was 4 of us in the family. My dad used to skate as a kid. So that's kind of how the whole family got involved in speed skating. And growing up on the prairie, speed skating was a good activity for us to do.
Yeah, were you guys involved in many different sports or just speed skating?
Mainly speed skating. I played a little bit of soccer in the summer, a little bit of field hockey in school, but we mainly did speed skating.
So how old were you when your dad put skates on you?
I think I was 4 years old when I started skating, and I think it was about 6 or 7 when I had got speed skates on.
Do you remember that the start in speed skating was kind of your decision? Was it more like your dad just wanted you to skate?
I think more or less my parents really wanted to put everybody in they liked speed skating because first of all it wasn't too expensive, and then secondly it was something that we could do as a family, and I think that was a big thing for them, is that we could do it all as a family. And then it didn't have my parents running around all over the place. If we were all in different activities, they'd be going in so many different directions. So that was just, speed skating was easy.
So what made you keep skating? Is there some things that actually before you went to World Cups or anything, or take it even seriously?
I think ever since I was a kid, I've been fairly competitive, competitive in sports, and I really liked skating. I went to the Canada Winter Games in 2007 in Whitehorse, and that was a really cool experience for me. That was probably my first biggest skating competition, because it was a national meet. And so I kind of got a little bit of, I guess it was a little bit of a, I kind of was oh, well, this is what the Olympic Games or whatever would be right? On a smaller scale, but it was the same kind of idea. And then I was yeah, it'd be really, then it was just kind of a dream of mine, when I was to try to get to an Olympics.
So how old were you when you started dreaming about getting Olympics?
I was young. I'd say probably when I was 8 or 9. I thought that, yeah.
And has that always been your biggest dream about skating?
Yeah, definitely. I remember too, as a kid, we would come to Calgary, to the Oval, just for whether it was camps or just to skate, and watching the national team. So I watched Catriona and Susan Ock and Jeremy and all the our national team back then. I watched them, and I was oh yeah, this would be so cool. So I had some a lot of inspiring people that I kind of watched growing up that helped, I guess, with cultivate my dream and stuff in the sport. Yeah.
Were you a good skater when you were younger?
I wouldn't say I've ever been a good skater. I feel like, well, like my brother's always, like my older brother's always very talented. Like it came really easy to him. With my sister and I, skating always came a little bit harder. I feel like I've always had to work pretty hard for what I've gotten. Like I wouldn't say I'm like purely talented, like athlete or anything. But I think a big part too of like starting to dream and stuff about that, a lot of it comes from my dad, because he like believed in me before I believed in myself. Like he really was the one that like I think instilled in me the fact that like if I worked hard and I was dedicated and like that I really could do anything. And he taught me like basically not to limit myself or to let other people place limits on me. So I think like a big part of, you know, my upbringing and my family and everything has to do with my like some of my achievements today. And
did your dad also coach you?
Yeah, he did. He coached me. He did like quite a bit growing up. I had lots of like other coaches too, like back home. And then when I came to the Oval, I had another coach. And then he actually coached me the year of the Olympics, like this 2013-14 season. So he coached me to the Olympics that year, which was like pretty cool. Yeah. But I mean, he's always kind of been my coach, even though I've had other coaches, just because he's the one person that I guess knows me so well, and he knows so much about the sport. Like he's very studious about it, and he likes reading about programs and workouts, and like we were like guinea pigs as kids. Like he would just like write up a program, or, you know, be reading about training, design a program, and then he'd get us to do it as kids, you know. And then we'd wake up and we'd be like so sore we couldn't even get out of bed. And then he'd be like, all right, okay, now.
that might have been too much.
That would have been too much for you guys. I got to tweak the program.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of role is your dad playing in your skating nowadays?
So he doesn't, he's not like my primary coach or anything, but he's definitely like one of my biggest, I guess he's like still my role model, and I'm very inspired by him because he's one of those people in my life I've always looked up to. But he's still like, I guess is a big part of it. Not maybe my primary coach, but he's still like, we can still talk training and we can still talk about skating and everything, and he's still part of it, I guess, in another sense. Yeah.
So then at some point you moved to Calgary. When was that, and how did it happen?
So I moved to Calgary in 2008 after I graduated from high school, and it was kind of, I think that's kind of what happens for a lot of kids in Canada anyway, because Calgary is the only covered oval in all of Canada. A lot of kids move from other provinces after they graduate to Calgary. So, I moved to Calgary so that I could, you know, kind of pursue my skating career and go to school and, you know, see what I could do. And then, I've been there ever since.
So you were 23 years old when you skated your first World Cup. What made you be so persistent before that? Because many skaters would have quit already.
Yeah. I think, honestly, like it never. Well, I had been going, when I moved to Calgary, I was going to school and I was working part-time and I was skating. And so I had a lot going on. And I'm thankful now when I look back on it that I did do things that way, because now I'm finished my degree and it's nice to have my degree. But I think, you know, in some ways, work and going to school kind of took away from skating, you know. So I was, not that I wasn't improving, I was like making little improvements, I think, all along. I just hadn't made that big leap to like a national team yet. But then once I was done skating and I could focus on, done school, I could focus on skating, my skating kind of got better. So I think skating and school was a good balance for each other. So I wanted to do both because skating gave me a break from school and school gave me a break from skating. So I liked the balance of doing the two. And then when I was done school, I was still skating, and I'll put my energy into just skating now and see what happens. And then I was able to, make a few more improvements and get to the next level.
So you also said that you were working at the same time. So was that your primary way to fund your skating? Because it must be like expensive to live in a different city than your family or parents, and then skate and study. So how did you do that?
Yeah, I took out student loans. Like my parents didn't have like the financial backing to put me through school, because I had 3 other children. But I did student loans, and then I also, like, with what I took in school, was working with that part time, like as a physio assistant. And so it also, part of the working was it was to help support my skating and living in Calgary, but then also just to cultivate or to get more experience, I guess, in the physiotherapy field, because I wanted to learn as much as I could there.
And at the same year that you skated your first World Cup, you also made it to Olympics. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, that was a crazy year. I remember making the World Cups in the fall, like in 2013, and I remember, like, I was like, wow, like, I worked really hard that summer, and I remember my dad being like, Marsha, you could make this team, like, you know, like, he had so much faith in that I could do that. And I also kind of, through my training, could see that, like, I could make some improvements. I didn't know, like, how big of a leap it would be, and I didn't know if it would put me on an Olympic team. But when I made the World Cups in the fall, then it kind of was like, okay, maybe I can, you know, maybe this is my year. So yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy because, I guess because, well, skating World Cups was one thing. Going to the Olympics in my first international season was another. Like, in some senses, I didn't feel prepared at all. Like, it was just, everything was so new that I just, I was just trying to take everything in and just really learn, I guess.
So how was the experience? I can just imagine, because that has been your dream for many years, and now you achieve it kind of really early.
Right.
So how did you feel afterwards? Yeah,
I was, you know, it's funny because I had these really big expectations on myself, because that was my dream for so long, to get to the Olympics, that going into the Olympics, I did have, like, high expectations for myself. And, you know, I feel like I didn't perform as well as I could have. And so I was a bit disappointed. And it did take me a little while to kind of, I think, wrap my head around everything. But then after the games, I kind of thought, like, well, that was, you know, like, I did as well as I could have for, you know, making the team for my first time and training on my own. And I just knew, like, okay, well, now that I do make the team, because I made the team after that, like, okay, well, I got 4 more years, and this is something I can just build on now.
And the last couple of years you have been training with Kevin Crockett. What changed when you went to Kevin's group?
Yeah, I think Kevin's a very sprint specific coach. So I think and I feel like just a pure sprinter, I think that's kind of like the nature of who I am, and, you know, it's just a pure 500 meter skater. He knows how to write a program for that. And so I think that just was something I needed, was, you know, just more sprinting specific for me. And he also, I think he's got high expectations for our group, and he makes us chase you guys. I think that's a big thing too, or a change was, you know, chasing the boys, and, you know, being expected to keep up and that kind of thing. Like, all that overspeed training was really, phenomenal. Like, it helps you, you know, just putting everything into the ice as hard as you have to do that. Then just your body kind of starts to adapt to that. And
that's actually one of my main things that I'm really interested about, because now you every single day you skate with the men's, And do you think that's good for you? You kind of said already that it makes you try harder or something, but is it good for you?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance, but I definitely think it helps to kind of like push myself, and I just know that like when I, like if I'm putting in a good effort by doing that, I guess.
Do you think that that would be beneficial for every single skater to train with like faster skaters?
Yeah, well, I think it depends like what the goal is and what you're after. I think for some accelerations and some speed stuff, it's good. I don't know if I'd be able to keep up with the boys for anything longer than 250 meters. That might be a bit of a challenge, but I think like there's a place for it, right? And I think Kevin's got it in the right place.
So how do you think your training would be different in a like women's only group?
I think it wouldn't be too different. The only thing missing would be a bit of that overspeed training. I don't think it's impossible to skate fast, even not in a group with, other like boys and stuff. It's just, I guess you need a balance is what it is. But I've done both now. Like I've skated well kind of in a group where we didn't do that, and I've kind of skated well in a group where that's what we've done. So I think part of it's just kind of what you adapt to.
What is your goal for speed skating right now?
Well, I'd like to, for this season, it's the Olympic Games in Korea in 2018. And then after that, I think, in some respects, my skating career is just, I'm just starting to put together some performances that are getting me into the top 10. So we'll see if I'm not, after this season, if, there's no injuries and the motivation, everything's still there, then I could keep going.
So is goal setting something that you do normally?
Yes.
So how do you set goals? Do you have some specific kind of like a tips that you could give us?
I generally like to sit down, I kind of generally like to sit down and look at the year. I guess I do it in two parts. I've got my long-term goals and I have my short-term goals. So there's the things that I work on monthly, weekly, daily, and those are smaller goals. And then I have the things long range that I like to write down. But I think the biggest thing about goals is being as specific and clear as you can be. I think that's how I found in the past is like when you're kind of vague about something, I feel like you're less inclined to achieve it if it's kind of vague. I think the more specific you can get and the more clear you can get on your goals, then it just ups your chances for getting that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any other things, like for example, do you write every goal down or only like those 1 year goals or long term goals? I keep an agenda and I generally write down in my agenda what my goals are for the week and for the day and that kind of thing. And then I have my kind of long-term goals. Do you think goal setting helps you?
Yes, absolutely.
Is goal setting also kind of part of your like mental game?
Yeah, definitely. I think like when you do have something specifically in your mind that you're trying to achieve, it's like not that like nothing's a guarantee, but when you have something written down and clear and concise about what you want, I think you're more readily kind of apt to do the things you need to do to work towards that goal than if you don't do that. Yeah, I just think it's like it's kind of more in the forefront of your mind then all the time, and they kind of direct everything that you do.
What are the the different things beside goal setting that you are doing for kind of like mental preparation?
That's a good question, Mika.
Are you using like visualization or something?
Yeah, I do some visualization, definitely. Yeah.
Do you do it only for competitions or also for trainings or?
Yeah, I try to do it for training too. Yeah, I try to keep my routines fairly the same for training as I would in competition to be as consistent as I can be. But I think for me right now, I think this year, a big part of my mental, I guess, preparation or game is almost based off of kind of experience that I've had and experiences kind of from last year. I learned a lot last year, and I think like the more experience you have, kind of the better prepared you are going into, I think, anything. And so I think a lot of, I guess drawing from other experience is part of my mental preparation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything specific that you could say? Because like I'm trying to think about some concrete thing that you could say that some of the younger skaters maybe they could use for their mental preparation, for example, races.
Well, I think a big one is maybe like your environment. I think, right, like when you're traveling around or you're skating, you go to competition, the environment changes. The environment's different than when you're at home, but the track is the same. It's 400 meters. And so I think maybe even perspective in that sense, and just controlling what you can control and not being controlled by your environment is a big one for mental performance.
What is the secret for your consistent improvement over the years? Because I checked your like World Cup overall rankings for 500 meter, and first year you were 35th, second year 25th, and then 15th, and now last year 4th. Yeah. So like every single year, last 4 years, you have been like about 10 places better. Yeah. How did that happen?
Yeah, I think I'm just really stubborn. I just won't give up. No. Yeah, no, I think I've kind of always had I think like improving has always been a big thing. Like I always I want to make improvements. I think when I stop improving, then there's, I don't know. I won't be satisfied, I guess, with that, or settled. But yeah, I don't know. I think just like being consistent in all the little things too just helps me improve, and then kind of trial and error and learning all along the way, and changing myself. Like I'm not the same person that I was 4 years ago. Like when I think back to 2014 to this year, like it's crazy how much like I've changed, just like habits and stuff. And I think that's, all helped me, I guess, improve.
Can you say some like specific habits, for example, that you changed?
Well, part of like my nutrition plan, working with my nutritionist and looking at, just making healthy choices. That's helped shape things. And then, getting enough rest and sleep and looking after my recovery and all those little things. And, just help self-care. All those little things have really helped me in the last few years. And it's funny because it's things that you don't maybe think too much about, but it's things that really add up, like in the long run.
So did I understand you right, that like just being patient, it's just like training every single day? There's no like a magic formula that you can do that you make the jump, but when you like be persistent and keep just training and training and training, you just like small steps at a time, you just get better, and then like after 5 years you might be the best. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it's like it's like the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise never gave up. He made it to the finish line. No, I think it is about patience, definitely. And you have to be willing to work, and then you have to be patient at it. And it's funny because there's a lot of things, like it's not just speed skating. Like people will be in speed skating for years and years and years, right? Like it definitely takes that long to, you know, to be at your best and to get better. But I think it's like that in a lot of things, right? Like if someone's starting a business, it's going to take them years of working and refining and everything to get it going, right? It's like, you're right, it doesn't happen. Like it's not just a magical thing. It's just pure hard work and dedication and patience and good attitude.
What is the one advice that you would give yourself when you were 15 years old?
I think just like be you. I think that's the big one. Just be you and be true to who you are.
Is that are you meaning like being like confident and not like try to act like everyone else?
Yeah. I think just like be you and stick to whatever it is that you know, want and are passionate about and desire, and go for it.
Hey Marsha, thank you so much. Where can people find you from internet?
Well, I'm on Instagram. Yeah,
that's the most important.
That's Marsha Hudey, and Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm not very good with my social media. I probably could be a little bit better, but those are probably the two main. Or my website, marshahudey.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much to giving these advices for younger skaters, and I wish you a very successful year.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I feel very honored because I've never been asked to do an interview or podcast, and
well, now you
just
are.
Made my day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So one more thing before you go. Please share it with your friends and leave a review wherever you listen.